Hi, it's Wayne from howtofish.com.au, and one of the things I always have with me is when I go fishing, both freshwater and fishing the estuaries, is the humble worm. Worms are probably one of the best universal baits that you can have, and in particular I like a worm that stays on the hook well and keeps lively in the water. Now the ones that I raise myself are European night crawlers. They are really easy to raise. You can get them into large numbers, they get to a great size, and I'm astounded by how long they'll stay in the water and stay active, which is what attracts those fish. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the process I use to raise these, and you'll always have worms with you when you need to go fishing. The medium or material that I use to grow these worms is coconut coir. This is available from Bunnings and places that sell garden products. It's sold here, these packs here are very large. This is 90 litres and it's a dried compressed amount, but you can buy it when it's not compressed, where it's already got moisture in it, in plastic bags. Much smaller bags make it easier to handle. And of course the smaller bags are cheaper as well. With this type of stuff, you just got to take it out of the packaging, break it up, soak it with water so it absorbs the water, and then it's ready to use. The reason it's used for gardening is its water retention quality. So it can absorb a lot of water. You have to add a lot to it, and that's why it's so good for the garden. If you do buy the coir in these dehydrated packs, it's always best to break it up so that you can add more water so it absorbs it properly. Continue the process of breaking it up, adding water, breaking it up again, until eventually you've got rid of all of the dry patches. It doesn't take long to get the coir fully mixed with water so that it's pretty much saturated all the way through, and then it's ready to put the worms in. And not only do they live in this stuff, but they also consume it. So it's both a bedding and a food at the same time. If you buy worms to start with, or if you have some already, if you're already breeding them like I am here, it's always best to prepare that coir first so that you have the base mix and everything ready for the worms to be put into. What I'm doing here is using a seedling tray as a sieve, and then this is the old coir. This is the bedding they've been living in for some time, and I'm just using a trowel, picking that up, putting it into the seedling tray, sieving them out so I can collect them and put them into the new coir that I've prepared. Start to lift this soil in here, okay, so that I've got enough at a time just to do a bit of shaking, so this happens fairly quickly. Okay, so I've got that in there, and then all I'm doing now, just shaking this over the top. You can see everything's coming through, but the bigger stuff, like the worms, etc., is staying on the top. Okay, so we've got some worms in there, and all I'll do is just put them in there. I've pretty much sieved all of that. I've got a little bit of soil left in the bottom of the container, and that's only because I've filled my containers over there. I've got my worms that I've filtered out over there, and I'll leave these and I'll put the new coconut coir over the top of this, because there'll be little babies and there's eggs in there, and it's not that much. I try to take out as much medium as possible because it's being consumed, and I noticed that they weren't feeding as well in there, so we got to the point where I needed to change this out. The coconut coir that I'd prepared previously, so I've put that with water, and the moisture content should be, you should be able to just squeeze it quite hard and just have a few drops of water coming out. As you can see, a little bit of water coming out when you squeeze it quite hard, and that's about the right amount of moisture to have in here. That's the type of medium that they like. I put that in there, I'll put my worms on top, we'll be ready to go. This is now all of that in the container. I've got my worms here. These are the worms that I harvested. So if I just look at how many I've got, look at that. This is the harvest out of there, and this is despite me having, I take out quantities like that, like about that, whoops, more about that. I take quantities like that out of this each week or every 2 weeks for fishing, and there's just hundreds in there. there's plenty of these little cocoons in there. They'll be new worms and they'll continue to thrive. Now I'll put these back in here. Have a look at that. Okay. All of those worms there, that is from one punnet of worms that I bought a while back. I've been growing these for a couple of years, doing this, taking them out for my fishing, taking handfuls out for my fishing every second week, and I've still got this many. The next thing I'll do is I'll just level that out a little bit. Level it out. Oh, look at that punch. Level that out. And then I'll put on, I usually dampen this, just a dirty old filthy piece of carpet that I've had for years. That goes over the top. I keep that moist, and that's how they're raised. For feeding, all you need is corn flour or wheat flour, that's fine. About a tablespoonful over the top. So all you do is put a little bit over the top here. Then you moisten it with a spray. Make sure it's nice and moist. And that's all it takes. I do that each day. If I come back and it's some still there, I won't feed until the next day. If I come back and it's all gone, I'll feed that much. Sometimes I feed a little bit more just to see how much they need. But if there's some already there, I don't add any more. I leave it until such time as they're consuming it all. And they will consume more and more over time. And eventually what will happen is this coconut coir is up to here. It'll go down as they consume some of that as well. It'll probably drop about that far. I had this I've just changed this out after about 7 or 8 months. And they consumed all of that in that time. It is a fantastic way of having bait every time you go freshwater fishing.
The final word of advice is on storage. These worms seem to do better when they avoid the extremes of heat. They're quite hardy. I've found them to be hardier than scrub worms, but they don't like the extremes of summer temperatures. So what I do is I keep them under my house. Those temperatures then don't get above about 25 degrees. Avoid direct sun on them as well, and they seem to do really well there.
If you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And for my fishing tackle, for my fishing lessons, for the gear that I use and my other videos, go to my website, howtofish.com.au. See you next time.